description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Your invitation to summer has arrived with 50% off everything for a limited time through Memorial Day weekend at Banana Republic Factory. Think breezy dresses, linen suiting, and more polished sun-ready styles only at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt may get a ticket. A driver who isn't wearing their seatbelt during a crash may not make it home. Don't risk it. Click it or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Mill Creek Golf Course is the Valley's leader for golfing fun with a practice range, short game area, and Hole 55 bar and grill all on site. Mill Creek Golf Course features a friendly PGA professional staff available for instruction, along with 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross. Don't forget family fun night golf on Fridays and Saturdays for just $25. For details and tee times, call 330-740-7112 or go online to millcreekmetroparks.org.
Hello, Phantom fans, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 29 of the Dump and Chase podcast, otherwise known as the Season 5 finale. I'm Sam, he's Justin, and after 4+ years, 110 episodes, a dozen or so short episodes that we do not acknowledge anymore, we get to say something on this show we have waited a long time to say, and Justin, you have the honors.
The Youngstown Phantoms are the 2023 Clark Cup champions.
Oh, that felt good. That's right. That's right. If you've been living under a rock the past week and a half and don't know, we have been promoted to being the unofficial fan podcast of the 2023 Clark Cup champions, the Youngstown Phantoms.
Yeah. I mean, it's just been an amazing season, an amazing ride. And this is the moment we've been waiting for, the episode we've been waiting to do.
Yeah. Before we get going with that episode, I want to mention the people who have been with us now for 2 seasons as the official sponsor of the Dump and Chase podcast. That is Dr. Carnivus and Dr. Ashdown, along with the incredible staff at Advanced Podiatry. So be sure to check out advancedpodiatry.com for office locations and appointment information, including same-day appointments, as well as a more in-depth look at treatment options and services provided for your comfort and well-being. Again, that is advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is the last resort. Yeah, when it's all said and done, and it kind of harkens back to a lot of the conversations that you and me had with people coming into the beginning of the season, coming into the Fall Classic. Expectations were high based on a few of the preseason games. And I always beg people to put zero stock into the final score of a preseason game. Again, I bring up the Cleveland Browns some odd years ago, going 4-0 in the preseason and then going 0-16 in the season. Now, thankfully, that's not what happened here. But again, put zero stock into final scores of preseason games. But, you know, a lot of the talk coming out of the preseason, coming into the Fall Classic, and it was a lot of the conversations you and me had with people, was this team was a year away. This team was going to be better than the team last season. The pieces are being put in place. We were still about a year away.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of optimism, to be sure. But the way things just sort of came together, you could tell after the game, wrap-up party, I think everybody was really amazed at how everything pulled together there at the end. It's just one of those things at the right moment. It all comes together and, here we are, champions.
And we're going to go into more in-depth, later on, but you kind of talk about the pieces being in place. But then you look at, in the off season, the Phantoms trading for Andrew Strathman, which, somebody who played a huge part, not only during the season, but especially throughout the playoff run. The Phantoms draft last year, the Phantoms trading up with whoever, I can't remember offhand, but the Phantoms trading up to get the second overall pick in phase 2. to get somebody by the name of Matthew Perkins.
Yeah. And obviously he kind of had that cannonball effect. You fire him into the middle and things happen.
And then, the Phantoms making, which can be argued probably, top 3 as far as trades in Phantoms history. The Phantoms bringing in Andon Serbone. And we're definitely going to talk about the playoff run that he had.
Yeah. I've been following the team for, quite a long time. And I'd have to say that, that might be the best trade we've ever made during the season.
And then then you talk about the Phantoms bringing in Martin Misiak and Pavel Funtek. Again, just kind of pulling strings at the right times and pulling the right strings.
And playing the type of game that brings these players in.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as what we got coming up in this episode, this is going to be an extended version. It's going to be a little bit longer than we typically do. There's a lot to talk about in this episode. Of course, we'll be talking about Game 3 that took place here almost 10 days ago. Now that the dust is finally settled and we're getting around to this.
It's been that long.
The Phantoms championship rally at the Youngstown Amphitheater. You will hear interviews with the captain, Shane LaChance, the finals MVP, Jacob Fowler, and something we've tried before, didn't work out great, went a lot better this time around. Very happy about it. You will also hear from Kenta Isagai. And of course, we're going to be looking back on the 22-23 season and looking ahead to what's in store for this summer as far as the show, as far as the Phantoms. I know an episode or two back, we had a little bit of fun with some shout outs. I think we should do a couple more. What do you think?
Let her rip.
So for this episode, we want to shout out longtime listeners coming out of the St. Louis, Missouri area. That would be Jeff and Carrie Catalano, along with Dave Catalano, who's been following me along on Twitter. I see him on there all the time. Yeah, I got to have a really nice conversation with Tyler Catalano there at the rally. Told me his parents are always listening to each episode, letting him know whenever he's mentioned. Which kind of make me feel bad. Made me feel bad. I kind of wish we mentioned him more if I would have known that. But we got to meet Jeff at main camp last year. Hopefully they'll be bringing the RV down this season. I get to see those guys again. So Jeff and Carrie, thank you for listening, keeping Tyler in the loop and everything else. And I kind of I really have a feeling Tyler may be my guy next year.
Yeah, we were kind of thinking, maybe down the stretch. He seemed like he was playing pretty well. Hasn't got a lot of the breaks. Maybe he's deserved. I think next season he might be a guy to watch.
And then to wrap up this segment here, of course, now we have the official Facebook page of the Dump and Chase podcast. I got bugged about this enough. I got tired of hearing it, so now I get to start up another social media page to try to promote and everything else. So you can check out the official Dump and Chase podcast Facebook page. Just go to your search bar there, type in Dump and Chase podcast. You'll find our goofy little logo pop up there. Of course, episodes will be posted there, information. I find it a little bit easier to use than Instagram just because of my advancing age. So definitely be some more postings there. I got to do a little bit of a post, a little bit of a live video for about 2 minutes of the fireworks show at the end of the rally before Facebook shut it off because there was live music playing.
Welcome to the club.
And they decided 2 minutes was long enough and turned off my live feed I had going there. So again, make sure to check that out on Facebook. So coming up after a break, we'll dive into Game 3 of the Clark Cup Finals and how we got to where we are now. All that and more coming up on this extended season finale of the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Dr. Ashdown and Dr. Carnivus have been making Happy Feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street to the top of the hill. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So at this point, we're going to get into Game 3 of the Clark Cup Finals. Starting off, and it was the goal that they were going to try to get the sellout at Covelli. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, there was a little skepticism in the beginning because it's like we've had some big time games in that arena. We even had a Clark Cup Finals game there before, a couple of them. And we weren't and the crowds weren't anything to write home about, and then the first day tickets go on sale, the announcement goes out, they sold 1,000 tickets in that first day. And then all of a sudden it's up to, they've sold 3,500 tickets, which kind of blows away, I think, most attendances, even the bigger ones that we've seen, then all of a sudden it's, oh, there's only like 500 tickets left. There's only a couple hundred tickets left. And then the thing that surprised me was kind of that, like, I guess they call it the east end of the arena. Those 5 sections that are always, either tarped off or just closed off. You very rare, maybe like school day games, you'll see somebody sitting there.
Or bands or,
Yeah, but you don't ever see those seats opened, and it's, you can go to Ticketmaster and you can kind of see like where the seats are selling and everything like that. To where I look at one point and that section wasn't there. That section's never on the map. And then all of a sudden that section's on the map and they're selling seats for those sections.
And like everything else, those little blue dots just started disappearing.
Yeah. It was just the more you looked, it's just the less and less blue dots you saw on Ticketmaster's website. And then next thing you know, there's the announcement. The game is sold out.
Standing room only. Yeah. A couple of people I work with, they were watching those blue dots, and I think the Phantoms sold the fear of missing out. You were going to be missing something special if you did not show up at this game, and those blue dots just disappeared.
I think when it was all said and done, maybe the biggest relief was felt by the ticket office. Had the Phantoms not won Game 3 and there was going to be a Game 4 the next night, and they were going to try to sell another 5,600 tickets in less than 24 hours, I bet they were extremely happy that scenario didn't play out.
Yeah, again, I mean, it would have been interesting to see what the turnout would have been, but I think we're all glad that,
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Just coming into the arena, and, it's, I was right there at the front of the line when the doors opened, but just coming into the arena, walking around, sitting down in our seats, there was just a buzz in that building like I had never, ever, ever felt before.
I mean, even before that, the line to get in a half an hour before, not just at the general box office, maybe people looking for seats. I mean, the VIP entrance had a line. I had some drone footage that showed it. I mean, a half an hour before the doors even open, it's packed around there.
Yeah, but it was, by the time the game started, it was like the building was vibrating.
Yeah. And crowd was kind of drowning out the DJ.
Yeah.
They went out and got a professional DJ, and we drowned him out.
That's who, by all accounts, did a very good job. And it was, a great pull for Youngstown to do that. I just kind of wish his speakers didn't cover the scoreboard we always stare at. That kind of.
Well, before the season, when the one that we used to stare at was out for months, and then you get kind of dependent on that one that's actually easier to see. But
you know what? When it's all said and done, it's a trade-off I'll take. But
yeah,
that was probably my only real complaint from Game 3 was my creature comfort was taken away from me. Yeah, so and then again before the game starts, kind of another first in all the years I've been there. To the best of my knowledge, I've never seen a former player come back. Now, granted, they're playing in college. The seasons kind of run along the same lines. But, even players from years and years from before who may not even be playing anymore, I'm walking through the concourse and there's Jaden Grant. Team captain from last year. There's Jaden Grant standing there by the Phantoms information desk. And it's like, wow. It's like, and then you start to realize, that, you get more and more of an understanding of what a big deal this is, that we actually have a former player coming back to watch, because I've never seen it.
Yeah. I wonder if his parents were there. They're Lake Northville people, Michigan. That's a couple hours away. So, Yeah, I mean, that kind of made you feel good seeing him. I mean, he came over, said hi to some of his former billet parents, and, it was just one of those moments. And I'm sure going forward, hopefully, we see kind of more of that.
And then, of course, right before the game, the announcement was made, I believe, the day before or 2 days before the game, the announcement after we recorded, of course, but the announcement was made that 12 gauge himself, Cardell Jones, who was the Ohio State quarterback during their national championship run there in 2014, with them thumping Wisconsin there in the Big Ten conference final game, and then going on beating Alabama in the first playoff game, and then beating Oregon there in the national championship. Cardell Jones stepping in, starting out the season as the third string quarterback. For anybody who needs some college football refreshers on a hockey podcast, but yeah, they bring Cardell Jones in to do the puck drop. Got to meet him after the game. That's a big boy.
And bigger personality. Great guy.
Yeah, my son Dash got a picture of him holding Dash. Dash looked a lot smaller in his arms than he looked in mine.
So yeah, it just really nice moment after the game. Kind of a great way to wrap it up.
And then but seeing him in person, and I've said that to you and others, standing right in front of him. I mean, I'm taller than Justin makes me out to be. I'm going to point that out. Every time somebody sees me for the first time, they're like, "Oh, you're taller than I thought you would be," because apparently your descriptions of me on here makes it sound like I'm like 5'1". Like I'm actually 5'7", which isn't tall, but it's better than apparently your descriptions have led people to believe who haven't seen me in person.
Well, if it's any consolation, your oldest son is now taller than me, and that's like,
oh yeah, he's like 6'3", 6'4". It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know where.
It wasn't from my side of the family, I'll tell you that. Hi, Brennan, by the way. But yeah, and it's like I think back to that game with Ohio State against Alabama in the college football playoff semifinal when he dropped back and then just took off on a QB run and trucked that free safety from Alabama. And standing right in front of him, all I can think is what was that guy thinking? Like just not moving out of the way. It's like, what were you thinking? This guy's running at you full speed and you're like, yeah, I'm going to make this tackle.
Well, I mean, that's your job. You got to try, I guess. Yeah.
Well, more power to him because I wouldn't have done it.
Nope. He took it he took it.
So yeah, beyond all of the pomp and circumstance, it was actually a game to be played here. Although apparently neither team got the memo in the first period. This was pretty much just one a big fight from the beginning of the first period to the end of the first period.
I mean, I don't know if you were supposed to expect that or it was a little bit, expected, I think, on my part. You played 2 games in Fargo and, the home team lost both games. They're going to come into your arena a little ticked.
I mean, you had, when it was all said and done, that first period, 42 penalty minutes were handed out between the two teams just in the first period. I mean, it was kind of curious because Youngstown has played a physical game most of the season. I don't think you could accuse Fargo of playing physical in games 1 and 2. So It was kind of curious as to what their game plan was, coming into game 3, that they started out that physical, like they were going to catch Youngstown by surprise.
I think they just lost their cool.
Yeah, didn't really. Yeah, I don't understand the theory in it because you're kind of playing to Youngstown's strengths if you try to do that. Because Youngstown won out more often than not in a lot of those scrums and everything else that went on. Fargo ended up being on the receiving end of a lot of it when they were trying to start this kind of stuff. So just kind of curious to what they were thinking, but I mean, it didn't work, so I don't know what they were thinking.
They weren't. And that's credit to the Phantoms in games 1 and 2.
So again, the Phantoms get out, come out of the first period there with no score, which basically followed the script of the entire series. No goals were scored in the first period. Getting into the second period, the team settled down a little bit, actually started to play some actual hockey. Let me see here if I can bring this up. Yeah, I mean, Phantoms led in shots 6-5 after the first period. Shots in the second period 12-9. And I may get this wrong, and I'm going to regret it. I now wish I would have went back and looked. I mean, the closest was at one point. Was it Strathman or Centrella had the shot from the point that deflected and then hit off the goalpost. That was the closest either team had come to a goal there in the second period up to that point. But yeah, just that one, just that shot from the point, it deflected off somebody in front and then ended up hitting off the crossbar, deflecting off. And chances wise, that was it. But I mean, it did settle down. Only three penalties in that second period.
Yeah. I mean, both teams kind of settled back into their game plans and figure it out from there. And then the third period.
So yeah, get into the third period. Only 24 seconds into the third period. A name I feel like we haven't mentioned a whole lot in these playoffs, so it was kind of a surprise.
Yeah. I'm stunned and amazed.
Somebody we just didn't really talk about all that much. Andon Serbone, kind of crashing in on the forecheck, stealing a pass that was basically some kind of wraparound clearing it, or not a wraparound, but like a turnaround clearing attempt. Picked off the pass in the slot, sniped it past Marinov. Giving the Phantoms a 1-0 lead, possibly giving Matt Lipsack a tiny stroke, the first of a couple in this game. Giving the Phantoms a 1-0 lead, and when it was all said and done, that's all they needed.
Yeah. I mean, if you'd have told me it was going to end up being a 1-0 shutout, I don't know if I would have said that you were crazy or we expect that out of Jacob Fowler in his last game, but that's what it was.
Fargo kind of had their push towards the end of the game. Youngstown had a little bit of swagger going on at that point. I think they kind of felt like, there's nothing Fargo could do at this point to get back in this game. There was just kind of this swagger, especially probably that last half of the third period. This is something, we'll talk about in the interview with Jacob Fowler a little bit later on. Maybe just like a little bit of an extra snap in his glove on a couple saves there towards the end of the game. Fargo really didn't mount much of any offense there at the end of the game. The defense, which has been the story all season, just shut them down. Yeah,
well, I mean, like you said, they had that little bit of extra swagger, and Fargo believed it. So, even going into the final push, goalie pulled, I just don't think Fargo really felt that they could get one past Fowler at that point. Get one past the defense. I mean, a good shot, yet alone get it past Fowler.
Yeah. So you get one little bit of an attempt there towards the end. I know the puck got on Fowler. I don't know how much they were able to get on any type of a shot or whatever. Hunter Bischoff clears the puck down to the other end and the celebration begins. I definitely didn't cry in that moment. Definitely. There might have been some tears. I mean, I wasn't just like sitting in my seat blubbering. We won. No, nothing like that. There were some tears of joy there for sure. Especially thinking back to 2 years ago, this was a team with 12 wins. Everybody was jumping ship. We were the joke of the child. We were the redheaded stepchild of the league.
5 years ago to the day they had done it to us on our ice, and yeah. I think I was like just too sort of detached, out of body at that point.
Yeah.
Just kind of that surreal feel. It starts that moment like Hunter Bischoff clears it. There's that few seconds between the buzzer when it's like, unless some, God miracle from center ice shot goes in, we have won it. And it's at that moment, you're just like, here it is. This is it.
Yeah, the game's over. Of course, the team celebrates. The confetti goes off. The arena goes crazy. They bring the cup out. First they announce, of course, Jacob Fowler winning the finals MVP, getting the shutout, stopping all 22 shots that he faced. And I feel comfortable in saying, just purely from a statistical standpoint, as far as any goaltender who has made it to the Clark Cup finals over the last 20 plus years, or what you would call the Tier 1 era of the United States Hockey League, the fact of the matter is, statistically speaking, Jacob Fowler had the best playoff performance by a goaltender in the Tier 1 era.
You go by the metric, players that have won the cup. I went back.
No, not even that. Just players who made it to the finals.
Made it to the finals, yes. I went back looking. I found, I think, 2 that had maybe better statistics in some, aspect. But if you're telling me, the guy back in 2012, 2013 that was, statistically better than Sean Romeo and Arthur Bray, when Bray unfortunately won the cup. No hard feelings. uh, anyway, but yeah, if that guy was, the best goal, no, not by long shot. Then you count the awards that he won during the season, and I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, 7 times goaltender of the week, the USHL goaltender of the year, the finals MVP, and then here just recently announced the USA Hockey goaltender of the year. So not just the USHL, but the entire umbrella of USA Hockey, he wins goaltender of the year.
Yeah. I mean, it is an amazing accomplishment what he has done this year. And I mean, that is only one aspect of winning a cup, but it all starts with goaltending. So,
and the fact of the matter is, we both got to know Jacob over the last year and a half. Couldn't have happened to a better kid.
Oh, no. I mean, just the right mixture of, he's got confidence, but, not overly confident. Well, I can't say that, but
he knows what his abilities are. And
exactly.
he's confident in those abilities.
Exactly. And, he knows where he's at, and look what he's done. It's just.
And the fact of the matter is if they don't build a statue to him, of him outside the Cavelli Center, what are we all doing here?
Yes. And we have some opinions on the statue that can't be mentioned here.
They could be mentioned in a certain way. That statue is going to have a giant set of cojones on it. I'll tell you what.
Oh yes. But those were very well backed up cojones.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a few different times his mouth wrote checks at his rear end very easily cashed,
and he'll still talk to us. So
yeah. Yeah, so just talking about Jacob Fowler, just there in the finals, played all 3 games, went 3-0, only allowed 2 goals. So overall, over the 3 games, 0.64 goals against average, a .976 save percentage, and the 1 shutout there in Game 3. If you look overall at the playoffs, 9 games played, went 8-1, 13 goals allowed, a 1.36 goals against, and a .952 save percentage, and again, the 1 shutout. But I think the stat that is most important would be the one that you pulled.
Yes. So according to NHL Network Analytics, Jacob Fowler is 8-0 in games that he has won and 0-1 in games that he has lost. That just goes to show you when he is winning, he is unbeatable. And for those of you who don't know, NHL Analytics put out a stat on former NTDP goaltender Jake Ottinger. Great guy, great goaltender, I guess. Whatever. Yeah. When he wins, he's 7-0, and when he loses, he's 0-4.
Yeah.
I wish we had access to such granular statistics.
I know. It's like I said. I would shout out some very easy statistics early on in the early history of the show just to kind of make it sound like I knew what I was talking about. But that was the NHL Network.
At least you tried.
In games that he's won, he's 7-0. In games that he's lost, he's 0-4.
Wow.
But no. So anyway, Jacob Fowler wins the finals MVP. Outgoing commissioner Bill Richardson comes out, hands the cup off to Shane LaChance. Shane gets to raise the cup. The team celebrate. And then, of course, per tradition, each player on the team skating with the cup. I wish I could sit here and talk about all of them and name all of them just off the top of my head. You talk about Kenta Isagai, his 3rd year with the team. He was the one player that was with this team 2 years ago when they only won 12 games. Now, you had Miles Gunty and Tyler Catalano, who played a handful of affiliate games that season. But Kenta was with them for the entire year. He was there during that 12-win season. He was here last year for the turnaround. And then, a year after that, he's skating with the cup.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, one of the most, humble players on the team. There's a guy that, his effort going down, his improvement, his effort going down the stretch. I think everybody that we talked to noticed.
Yeah, you talk about Andon Serbone, who was with Chicago a few years ago when they won the cup. Only played a handful of games during the regular season, wasn't on the playoff roster. And then, before this season started, was traded to Omaha. I mean, his junior hockey career was pretty much dead in the water at Omaha. Youngstown believed in him enough, though, that they bring him to Youngstown. And I mean, it's, talk about a career revival. What Andon Sorbonne ended up doing for this team. I mean, not only what he did for his future prospects, but what he did for this team.
Exactly. And I think, we talked about how it was kind of a weird transition as fans to see him in a Phantoms jersey. But I
couldn't visualize him in any other jersey now.
Yeah, exactly. The role he played on this team is immeasurable.
Three game winning goals in these playoffs, 2 in overtime, and then the goal in the beginning of the third period in Game 3. 3 game winning goals in this playoff series. I believe that's the first time in 5 years that's happened in a single playoff year. And then, again, rounded out talking about Jacob Fowler, somebody, who went undrafted in the USHL, showed up at Phantoms main camp, was able to impress the coaches enough that, as a 15-year-old, he was added to their affiliate list. What you would consider a very unconventional route for, a United States-born player to get into the United States Hockey League, and just to look at what he did with that opportunity and to see him, finish off his junior career skating the cup.
Yeah. I mean, the way he came to Youngstown, I mean, we have a goaltender called up to their college team because that goalie got called up to the NHL. Everybody was a little bit, admittedly, skeptical, but nice kid coming in. You had talked to him a few times before he played for us.
Yep.
And, got his chance. And I think he knew right off the bat what his position was. And again, we've mentioned, he lives up to the billing.
All right. So with that, which was a lot more than we thought it was going to be, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, it's time to talk a little party, or in this case, we're going to talk a rally. That and more is coming up here on the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
You're listening to Western Reserve Radio at westernreserveradio.com on the Live 365 network and the Live 365 app.
We're back with the Dump and Chase podcast, sponsored by Advanced Podiatry. So, as they say, to the victors go the spoils, and part of that was the rally that was held at the Youngstown Foundation Amphitheater this past Wednesday, which I got to say I was fairly impressed with. I have yet to go to the amphitheater since it was built here a few years back. That is actually a nice little setup they got going on there.
Agreed. My first time there as well. Nice open area, great sight lines. Maybe we can get an outdoor game there. No.
No, the funny thing is, what it kind of reminded me of, anybody who has ever spent any time at a concert at Star Lake Amphitheater or Chevy Amphitheater or Post Gazette Pavilion or whatever you want to call it out there in Burgettstown, Pennsylvania. It kind of it was like a little miniature version of that. It was really neat.
Yeah. I think it's back to Star Lake. I might be wrong, but somebody told me that.
Yeah, there's Star Lake's in the title there somewhere again. It's gone through so many names over the years.
Yeah, it's just kind of a smaller version. You just got a little bit of a hill. I think it's very well done. Kind of minimalistic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's perfect right there on the river. Great. Yeah,
nice little venue there. For any fans that went, just kind of the amazing thing, the players were just kind of walking around, team personnel were just kind of walking around, like everybody was like accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And it was just like this wonderful, just open atmosphere that you could just willy-nilly just walk right up to Will Whitelaw, hey, how's it going? You know what I mean? And it's, for a lot, and for a lot of people, it's other than maybe like autograph signings and stuff like that. There's not, or like an event after the game. There's not really a ton of opportunity to, get to talk to the players or whatever. I mean, but this was just a completely open deal, and you can just walk up to whoever you wanted to walk up to.
Not that either one of us did, but you could have walked up and got into a ball hockey game with the players or, down in front of the stage. I mean, that was mostly for kids, but
Well, you don't know how many of those kids came out during the official timeout breaks during games to shovel out the crease that you've mocked.
Yeah. So I obviously I couldn't go there.
Some of those kids might have been those kids down there playing. It might have been best that you stayed away.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they remember my face, and I don't need to get beat up again.
But yeah, right down in front of the stage, kind of that concrete area, you had players down there that was, just playing ball hockey with the kids. And, I mean, and how many times are those kids going to get opportunities like that?
No, exactly. I mean, those are going to be NHL players someday, some of them.
Yeah. And these kids have the story that,
a dunk tank.
Yeah. A dunk tank. Yeah. That we went here and we got to play ball hockey with these, he's playing in the NHL now, but I got to play ball hockey with him, a few years back. And then of course with us walking around trying to, finding that balance between there's stuff we needed to do for the show and then, wanting to be a fan at the same time. So kind of try to balance those two out to where we can just walk around and just be fans and, not worrying about sticking microphones in people's faces and stuff like that. But, just a lot of it. And it's the crazy thing was as much excitement as there was for what had just happened with the Phantoms winning the cup. But just like this excitement anytime we would start talking to anybody about next season.
Yeah.
I basically, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but basically having a conversation with somebody who they felt in their opinion that this team is maybe only one or two players away from being the favorites next year.
And, as you've mentioned, there might be things in the works already to get those players.
Yeah. Again, out of respect and journalistic integrity, I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, I was kind of clued in. Come main camp coming up here in a little bit, there may be a surprise or two.
I mean, that's to be expected with winning the cup, but I think with the people that we have in the office, general managers, presidents, down the line, they've proven themselves the ability to put these players in. So, you saw that Serbone, Funtek, Bishak. We added those players during the season. That doesn't stop at the end of the season.
But yeah, it's you're reveling in, the victory of winning the cup. But at the same time, there's just this buzz talking to everyone, about this upcoming season. And it's, this is kind of the benefit, Nick Williams was the only overage birth year kid on the team.
Yeah.
So basically it is guaranteed Nick Williams is not coming back this next season because he aged out. That's the only one. Now, Grant, we know there are others, Shane LaChance is moving on. Jacob Fowler is moving on. Some others, we know that for sure, and that's, when we've had kind of older teams, more experienced teams in the past, the Phantoms had success, but they were all gone the next year. And it was, 75% of the team is gone and it's almost a rebuild the next season. There are a lot of kids on this team coming back next year.
Yeah. And I mean, as we've seen in the past, sometimes, things don't work out where you're at, as some of these players are eligible to come back to the team if, for whatever reason, things don't work out. So winning the cup, putting a quality product out there, might make players, think that is a viable option.
Yeah. But not only that, at the same time, you're now, they're talking, all this talk, especially with Coach Ward about changing the culture. And there's somebody else we could talk about, just the job that he did.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah, exactly. And, word gets out, this is a team you want to come to now.
Yeah. So, now you're going to be the team that, these players, these advisors are coming to you saying, hey, I'm interested. You have a spot for me.
And the reputation amongst players. I mean, these kids talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, this isn't a place that, hey, you might want to avoid this locker room. There's some issues here. Now it's a fun place to play.
And you're seeing that, and you're seeing it playing out where, the conversations we've had with Jason Deskins and Ryan Kosecki, the Phantoms general managers, the conversations that we've had with them, where they talk about we're not building for one good year and that's it. We're building, for a future where this team is competing each and every year.
Yeah.
Where this is an upper tier team every season. And already we have a team that has now won a cup that we're already looking ahead to next year as being a team that could be one of the favorites for next year.
Yeah. And you mentioned changing the culture. And you mentioned earlier in the show, this might be a team that, maybe not this year, but the next year, it steps. I don't think changing the culture was something we thought was going to turn around quite so quickly.
Yeah, that the players kind of bought in to what it was, the GMs, the coaching staff, what it was they wanted to do, that the players bought in as quickly as they did.
Yeah. I mean, you could see that was definitely part of it past the kind of the mid-season, maybe a little bit later than that. But yeah, it was everybody kind of bought into the system, bought into the culture. And, I think it caught us both kind of a little off guard there.
Yeah, another part about the rally that I loved, because, an NHL team, if they win the Stanley Cup, they're not just going to stick the Stanley Cup on a table and anybody can just walk up to the thing, pick it up, hold it, or blah, 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 or whatever. It has people that travel with it, that protect it at all times.
Nice guy, by the way.
Yeah. The guy with the blondish, grayish mop top, I can't think of his name offhand, but...
Yeah. White glove, yeah.
Yeah, you always see him in pictures with the cup and everything, traveling it around. But it's not something that's fan accessible. Yeah, they're going to put it on a table and you could stand behind a line and, take a picture next to it. You've done that.
Yeah.
Were they going to let you pick it up and hold it above your head? No.
I did get to touch it.
You did get to touch it, but,
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, they're not going to let me pick it up. Unfortunately, they had to let Pat Maroon pick it up.
But yeah, it's like, the cup was out there. If you wanted to touch it, you could touch it. If you wanted to take pictures with it, you could take pictures with it. If you wanted to pick it up and hold it above your head and take a picture, you could pick it up and hold it above your head and take a picture. Now, a lot of people were obviously around the cup. It's a big deal. You and me did not get you ended up having to duck out a little bit early. So you and me didn't get our picture opportunity. I did. If anybody follows any of my social media, I plastered it everywhere.
Great picture. Oh, cut that. Yeah.
This isn't the Lincoln podcast. Stop that.
Yeah.
You have to bring back the Ooga horn for that one. Yeah. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. So I ended up getting my picture with the cup. I took it with Jason Deskins. Again, the Phantoms, one of the Phantoms general managers, somebody who's actually become a great friend over the course of this whole thing, not just a working relationship, but.
Who took the picture?
Andrew Goldman took the picture.
That's what I figured. I saw him take like over a dozen pictures with other people's cameras.
I'm going to have to take a minute. I apologize. I'm just dropping names all over the floor here.
Yeah. No, I wanted. I only asked that because I wanted to throw that out. Andrew is one of our favorite people, and I think that's why. I saw so many people come up and say, oh, Andrew, can you take our picture with the cup? And he was like, give me your camera. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Andrew might have rivaled Scott there for most pictures taken.
I would not doubt that. So, yeah, just a shout out to Andrew. And he got my drones into the premises.
Yeah, if you were at the rally and saw an orange drone flying around, shooting video and whatnot, that was Justin.
Not the gray one that was flying around in people's faces.
I think at one point I saw a little kid trying to chase your drone around, but other than that, but no, yeah, but I do have confirmation. I did have it confirmed that the cup will be at main camp.
We might have to do something there.
So the 50 other combinations of people to take pictures with the cup with, we're going to have to get the rest of those at main camp. But it was confirmed that the cup will be at main camp. So it'll be good to see old Clarky again.
Maybe they'll do a little work on it before then. Yeah,
that base is a little rough. They need to kind of square that up again.
The veneer's starting to peel, guys.
And then of course, one of the benefits to half of the team you root for being owned by a national fireworks company was the fireworks show at the end of the night, which again tried to do some live video. Facebook had other ideas. Yeah, just a heck of a grand finale. I'll tell you what, Phantom Fireworks put on a show with that grand finale.
Unfortunately, had to duck out before then. That is my one big disappointment there.
And then, just got, fireworks ending and then, making sure you get around to some of the guys aren't going to be back, kind of saying your final goodbyes and, getting one more chat in with Tyler Catalano. Jeff and Carrie, you can text them. We just mentioned them again. But and then another part of this, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break here. But another part of this, like I mentioned earlier, I was able to get interviews with the captain, Shane LaChance, Kenta Isagai, and Jacob Fowler. So you're going to hear all of those coming up after the break here. So stick around right here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
This is the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So like I mentioned in the last segment, I was able to pull a few interviews while at the Phantoms rally here this past Wednesday. Of course, starting out with the captain, Shane LaChance. I had a couple comments to make about Jacob Fowler with Shane LaChance going to Boston University and Jacob Fowler going to Boston College. Already a tiny bit of a rivalry there. They both had comments on it. And then one that's kind of been a long time in the making, getting to have a short little chat with Kenta Isagai, who, and you were with me for this, more towards the beginning of last season, we attempted to do an interview with Kenta. His English had become a lot better than when he had first arrived in Youngstown, but as far as being able to do an interview, he was a little nervous about that. It ended up not working out too great.
Yeah, he communicated more in body language, which doesn't translate in an audio-only interview.
No, and he, and it's, after that, and it's, we kept telling, we're going to get you back on sometime. We're going to get you back on, and he was always game for it. And then when I asked him at the rally, he jumped right to it. So I was able to chat with him for a little bit. But yeah, like I said, basically you'll be hearing this in a kind of rapid fire succession here. Shane LaChance, Kenta Isagai, and Jacob Fowler. So let's get to that. All right, and we're here with Captain Shane LaChance. Shane, other than winning the cup, how would you sum up your 2 years here in Youngstown?
I mean, it's been awesome. I think every day, I've said this a couple of times now, every day it's just gotten better and better. And I think, these fans are, awesome to us. And I think it's great for them to be able to be out here and, celebrate with us and, get their time with us. And I think, I'm going to remember this time forever.
Now, you come in beginning of last season. Of course, it's a rebuilding year for the Phantoms. You guys far exceed expectations last season. And then, of course, a lot of the talk going into this season was maybe this team was a year away. What is it to you that kind of maybe pushed up that timeline?
Yeah, I think last year I really learned how to, be a leader. And, I learned from a lot of great guys behind me. Jaden Grant was a great leader for us. And I think, he was able to teach me a lot about what it is to be a leader. And I think, coming in this year, I kind of knew it was going to be my last year of junior hockey and I wanted to do something special. And I think, our group did a hell of a job buying into that. And, just obviously you can see that here with the trophy here. But, I just think, our team did a great job buying in and, obviously the rest is history.
Now, you talked about Jaden Grant. We talked earlier in the season about just kind of the lessons you learned from him. What lessons do you hope to pass on to the next guy?
Yeah, I mean, whoever's the captain here next year, I'm obviously going to reach out to him a lot. I'm going to, let them know that I'm here, anything they need, because it's definitely not an easy position to have. Everything falls on you pretty much, from the coaches. You have to relay the message. And I think, it's a great position to have. It teaches you a lot. It taught me a lot. I'm so thankful for the guys to help me out a lot. I definitely couldn't have done it by myself. I had a great group of leaders next to me and all around me in the locker room. And I think I'm just going to, pass on all the knowledge I have to them, so they can be successful in the future.
Now, the game on Friday night, of course, almost 6,000 people in the arena. Have you ever played in front of anything like that before?
I mean, it was unbelievable. I can't even put it to words. I mean, I was sitting on the bench about 30 minutes before warm-ups and there was probably already 3,000 people in the building. The DJ's going, and I couldn't even hear my own voice talk. So that's what you want in junior hockey. That's the atmosphere you strive for, and I think that's what ultimately got us the win. Just a great support from this Youngstown crowd.
Now this might be a tricky one, but the clock runs down to 0 there at the end of the game. What's going through your head?
I mean, I thought it was icing, to be honest with you, at first. I kind of came off a little late. I just no one skated back for it, so then I was like, all right, we won it. But that shot on Fowler there at the end, I was like, oh my God, he had to make one more save, which is obviously he's going to make the save. He's been great for us all year. But I think, once that puck got shot down, it started to sink in a little bit. I just hopped off the bench and threw my helmet up in the air and just, had my mouth wide open. I couldn't believe we were Clark Cup champs.
When you talk about Jacob Fowler, I mean, what can you say about just the entire playoff run that he had?
I mean, he's awesome. I've said this a couple of times too. Like, I'm going to be playing against him a lot next year, so let's hope he takes a little step back. If he hears this, let's maybe not train so hard this summer to try to give me a chance. But I know where to score on him, so it's all right. But no, I mean, all jokes aside, he's been awesome. He carried us to this point. A lot of people say the captain carries guys to this point, but I mean, you don't win the championship without an unreal goaltender, and that's what he did for us. He gave us a chance to win every night, and he's the MVP for the reason.
Now, you two kind of, were one of the ones that kind of shared the disappointment by the end of last season. I mean, just for you two, how sweet was that? How the way last season ended to how you ended it this year?
Yeah, I think it was awesome for us two, and not only us two, just all the returners. I think everyone realized coming in that we didn't want to be like last year's team. We wanted to create a new change, a new culture, and really want to strive for excellence. And, obviously our goal was to win the Clark Cup. Our goal was to win the Eastern Conference, and we obviously accomplished both of those. And, we couldn't be happier as a group right now.
This kind of, your time now winding down in Youngstown, what message do you want to leave for the fans here?
The only thing is just keep coming out. I think, we're going to have a great team for a while now. And I think from experience from this last game, if you keep coming out, it makes it that much easier for us to play on the ice. Home ice advantage is huge in this league. And, having all those fans cheering and yelling in the stands, it just makes everything that much easier. And, it gives us that boost that we need to go out there and get the job done.
All right. Well, Shane, thank you for everything the last 2 years, and good luck in your future, bud.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Now I'm here with Kent Isagai. Kent, your third year with the team. Now, your first year with the team, the Phantoms only win 12 games. 2 years later, you're Clark Cup champions. How good does that feel?
Amazing. Just amazing. Feels good.
Can you talk about that crowd on Friday night? Again, you've been here for 3 years now. I know you haven't seen anything like you saw on Friday night with the crowd.
Yeah, that was awesome, actually. It was so loud. It helped a lot, actually. Yeah.
I mean, as this season comes down to an end, obviously your teammates, what are you going to miss about, this season coming down to the end here?
I'm going to miss everyone because I love them. Yeah. I don't know what am I going to miss, but.
All right, 39 points this season. Are we getting over 40 next year?
Over 40.
Over 40?
Yeah. Maybe over 50.
Over 50?
Yeah.
All right, Kenton, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and we're here with the Clark Cup MVP, Jacob Fowler. Been a hell of an 18 months, bud.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think I can speak for every one of these guys, and you don't want this to end. And, there was no better feeling than being able to just throw your mitts and just hug everybody on this team. And, it's something we wanted to do since day one. And to bring this home to this entire city and this entire organization, it's something that no one can ever take away from us, and there can never be another first Phantoms Clark Cup champion.
Now, it seemed like towards the end of the game there on Friday, there was maybe just a little extra snap to the glove there in the third period. Were you feeling it at that point, or?
Yeah, I think at that moment, you're not really thinking about it too much. I think it's, you're trying your best not to look at that clock, because at the end of the day, there could have been an hour left on that clock. You just got to make one more save than their guys. So just taking it one shot, one save at a time, as cliche as it sounds, it was the key to that victory. And, even the last 4 seconds, you can't take your foot off the gas. So now champions.
What's that feeling like when you're out there, you make a save, and you got close to 6,000 people screaming for you?
It's something I haven't experienced too often in my hockey career. And, I think win or lose the Clark Cup, I think something we wanted to do in Youngstown this season is you want to rebuild that fan base. If there's one thing you want to do is you want to fill that arena. I think you think back to last year on that Tuesday night where there's maybe only 500, 600 people, to then with the Clark Cup a year later with 6,000 people, I think that's a win on its own. So to mix all that in, being champions of this league, it's our duty to the city to do that. And, they showed their part by coming out for us.
Now, you had the early playoff exit last year with Madison. How much of a motivating factor was that going into this year, just not wanting to have that feeling again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, game one against Cedar Rapids was that double overtime game, which, if that game goes the other way, you never know how today feels. So
yeah,
I think we had a bunch of returning guys on that team. So the locker room these past 10 days in May, as Coach Ward says, it doesn't matter what happened the day before or the shift before. It's what can you do to make an impact on the game and give your team the best chance to win. And we had 23 guys pulling the rope in the right direction. And, That's why we're sharing it here today.
Now, I talked to Shaner and kind of talked about, you two's journey from last season to this season, and he talked a lot about the importance of having somebody like you in goal. To you, what was the importance of having somebody like Shane, leading this team?
No, there isn't a better leader. I think in my short career to this point, I've been so fortunate to have guys like Shaner in my locker room, and he's one of my best buddies, but we're going to be friends for now, but, the next few years, we're not going to be too close to buddies when we're playing them.
Same thing. You said hopefully you take a step back next year.
I'll look forward to, seeing his success, but as long as it's not against the Eagles, we'll be all good.
For 60 minutes every now and then, you're not friends.
His mother told me that, and I said, I'm going to love her every day except for when it's the Battle of Combat.
When he's the one standing in front of you in the crease.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make my job a lot harder when I got that 6'5" beast standing in front of me, but...
All right, so your time's coming down to an end here. After this, you're taking off to Boston. What do you want to say to Youngstown fans, and not only have you supported over the last 18 months, but especially here in this playoff run?
Yeah, there isn't a better place to play junior hockey, and I think, everybody wants to talk about the 6,000 people we had on Friday night when it's deeper than that. Everybody wants us to be champions here, and this city is the one city that nobody wants winners more than Youngstown, and to be able to call yourself a Youngstown winner, it's something that not a lot of people can say. So to bring what we just did back to the city and to the billets, to the parents, to the families, to absolutely everybody involved with being a fan or, being a fan once of this team is something that means the world to all of us because, without all those people there cheering from afar on Friday night, we may not be standing here with this Clark Cup. So it means even more to us when we get to experience this with everyone involved.
All right, Jacob, thank you very much, bud.
Absolutely.
All right, so there you go. So I guess right away, Kenta Isagai putting it out there, 50 points next season.
I think he might beat that.
But again, Shane Lachance, Jacob Fowler, those are just two. They both have such a career ahead of them. Jacob Fowler will be finding out here in about a month or two, or I guess I should say, what his future is going to start to shape up to look like. Of course, Shane Lachance moving on to college, already being a Edmonton Oilers draft pick. So, those are two guys I'm just going to miss horrifically.
There is a whole lot of talent, personality, and leadership there that we're going to have to find people to make up for.
But like Jacob Fowler said, there's going to be, those that come after, but what's special here is, those are the guys that won the first one.
Yeah.
And there, there's always going to be that connection back to Youngstown because this was the group that, won the first one.
Yeah. And, hopefully that translates into more. But these guys have left their mark on Youngstown hockey. That's to be certain.
All right. So with all of that will put a button on the Clark Cup celebrations. We're going to step aside for a moment, but when we come back, we'll look back on this season and what shaped and led this team to basic Youngstown immortality. So keep it right here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
This is Everett Fitzhugh, the radio voice of the NHL Seattle Kraken, and when I want to catch up with Youngstown sports, I tune in to Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
Hi, it's Mark Means, host of By All Means, Tuesdays at 5, right here on Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on Western Reserve Radio. The Reds beat the Red Sox 5-4 in Boston. Spencer Steer hit a two-run homer to break a seventh-inning tie. The Tigers beat the Rangers 3-2. Jake Marisnick's RBI single in the sixth was the difference maker. The Pirates beat the Giants 9-4. Brian Reynolds drove in 3 runs. Mitch Keller's 4-0 in his last 5 starts, 7-1 overall. He allowed 4 runs and 10 hits with 8 strikeouts.
1 run is in. That's Gallagher. Right behind him is Kwan. Right behind him is Rosario. All 3 score on the double off the bat of Josh Naylor.
The call on Guardians Radio 12-8, the win over the Orioles on Wednesday. Josh Naylor homered, had a career-high 4 hits and drove in 6 runs. Josh Bell and Gabe Arias also went deep for the Guardians as Cleveland notched season highs in runs and hits with 17. For lightning fast updates, download the Score app. It's free and one of North America's most popular sports apps. That's the Sports Flash. Chuck Sanders, Western Reserve Radio.
O'Reilly. Does your vehicle have over 75,000 miles? Get maximum high mileage engine protection with new Syntec Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Right now, get 5 quarts of Syntec High Mileage and a MicroGuard Select Oil Filter for just $34.99. Limit supply. Ask for Syntec High Mileage at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/movingforward.
Welcome back to the Dump and Chase podcast, brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So for this segment, we're just going to kind of take a look back at what this season was, kind of how it went along, and really just, kind of points along the way where the Phantoms ended up where they were at. Of course, and we talked about earlier in the episode, you had a new coach coming in. You had, Jacob Fowler coming off, an incredible half a season with the Phantoms a year before. A lot of hype around this team. And they kind of blew through the preseason. And again, I'll say 0 stock into scores, please. So yeah, coming into the Fall Classic, a lot of hype around the Phantoms. Phantoms play that first game against Waterloo, losing that game 5-2. And just, it felt like, just right off the bat, it felt like it just kind of took the air out of a lot of people's tires as, that's the way the season started.
Especially, that was your first time managing to get to a Fall Classic game.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. And, Waterloo beat us twice in the season, more than any other Western Conference team.
Of all the 3 that we played.
Well, there's that.
And then, interesting little point, how we talked earlier about trades and everything else. Going back, do you remember who scored the first goal of the season for the Phantoms?
It wasn't Whitelaw. He scored the game winner.
Whitelaw assisted on the first goal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was it Strathman? No. Yeah, it was Strathman. Yeah.
And Andrew Strathman picking up the first goal of the season for the Phantoms, and then you have Andon Sorbonne scoring the last goal of the season for the Phantoms. So again, when you talk about the trades and, the moves that were made by this team.
Yeah. And then, we won the second game, which was kind of unusual for the Fall Classic. We tend to not do well there, but.
Phantoms beating Des Moines 2-1 in the second game of the Fall Classic. And then I'm trying to remember, Phantoms had 18 days off after that?
Yeah.
Didn't play another game for a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah, we had a bye week. What?
Yeah.
So
that was like some NFL scheduling going on right there. But yeah, it's get through the Fall Classic and then had a lot of time to think about it before the season picked back up for the Phantoms.
Maybe too much time there.
And then we talk about, you heard a lot of the talk about just kind of the Phantoms' slow start to the season where you have a young team, you have a new coach, you have a new system. Trying to put everything together, trying to get everybody to buy in, and going through October and November, the Phantoms at the end of November were only 6 wins, 7 losses, 3 overtime losses, 1 shootout loss, 6, 7, 3, and 1. But at the same time, we're going to get into this in just a little bit, kind of like the Thanksgiving, that little bit of a Thanksgiving break, and coming out of that break was really where the turnaround for the Phantoms started. Then you had the American Cup taking place up in Rochester, New York. The Phantoms traveling up there, meeting Green Bay for the second time in a row. We talked about last season, Green Bay getting 2 wins up there when at the time they really had no business getting those wins. And maybe this was kind of like the reverse story. But again, this was kind of the start of the Phantoms turnaround this season. where Green Bay was the team having success, Youngstown was the team that was kind of scrapping along. Youngstown, getting the 2 wins up at, the American Cup, beating Green Bay 3-0 and then beating them 5-4 in a shootout. But again, that was right around that time you started to see that turnaround.
Yeah. It was kind of one of those big milestone games for Matt Lipsack. Stick tap there. How many games?
The first game, the 3-0 game, that was Matt's 200th game broadcasted.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, obviously it was kind of one of those, milestone weekends, I think, all around for the team. But like you said, obviously that was when things were starting to come together, and it just kind of started to roll from there.
So by the time the Phantoms got to the end of the 2022 calendar year, they were sitting with a record of 12-10, 3-1. So again, starting to, after the Thanksgiving break and then into December, starting to turn things around. Then we get into the beginning of the year, the Phantoms in January and February going 13-4-1 in that January-February stretch. And then, of course, that we talked about at the time ad nauseum on the show, the Cleveland Classic, which took place there at the end of February.
Yeah. Something that was not on the radar at the beginning of the season.
Well, our radar at the beginning of the season, that was...
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anybody's radar at the beginning of the season, but the USHL has played a couple outdoor games, but this was something unique that came up for the Cleveland area. And kudos on the Phantoms organization for leaping on the opportunity.
Especially assistant coach Brandon Dennis.
Yeah.
Everybody we talked to just couldn't say enough about the effort he put in to put that together for Youngstown. And that, that was part of a 3-game weekend series with Cedar Rapids, a team that will come up in conversation here again in a little bit for obvious reasons. That's basically how Youngstown ended out the month of February. But again, January and February going 13-4-1-0. Then you get into March, Youngstown going 8-3 in March, and then finishing it off in April going 5-2. So if you put it all together and you look at, the Friday game, the day after Thanksgiving, as kind of that starting point, from that game to the end of the season, the Phantoms were 33-13-1-0.
That's, fairly impressive, especially, as has been noted, this was a young team.
And for those that were keeping track, just when the calendar flipped over to 2023, from January 1st to the end of the season, as far as record and points, Youngstown was the best team in the USHL.
I think even going before that, we kind of saw that they were starting to assert, kind of a dominance. And even, I think some of the top teams kind of saw that coming.
When everybody we talk to talks about, from the net out, you saw Jacob Fowler hitting his stride. At one point there, if I remember correctly, I think it was like 3 shutouts in a span of like 20 days.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. You saw the defense just shutting teams down. You saw like the Will Whitelaws and the Andon Serbones, and then, some of the secondary guys stepping up. You saw, Kenta, who had an incredible end to the season. And then translating over, into the playoffs. You saw these guys stepping up.
Perkins, Rozzy.
Yeah.
We could go on.
But, again, you talk about, you talk about the defense. You talk about, Tomasz Machu, the year that he had.
Yeah.
Again, Pavel Fontek, Nick Williams, Andrew Centrilla, Torrey Pittner, who's an 06. Look at the season Torrey Pittner had as an 06.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a big career ahead of him.
Jack Wilson, who started becoming involved more offensively there towards the end of the season and then coming into the playoffs. And then, I would argue probably most improved from last season into this season, Chase Patilla.
Just his two-way contribution was amazing.
Yeah, but then, again, the Phantoms lock up the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, get the first round bye, come into round 2 against Cedar Rapids. And kind of when it was all said and done, the Phantoms having to play Cedar Rapids, the Phantoms having to play Chicago, and just kind of the strengths of those teams, you could combine that into what Fargo was going into the finals. So, in a way, it was like Fargo wasn't a team per se that they had seen, but they had seen teams like that building up to it.
Kind of both aspects in the second round and the third round. A really good defense and a really solid offense. And yeah, I think maybe having to fight through two different style teams definitely led us to a little bit of an advantage, I think, over a team that, played solid offense and defense all around.
Yeah, you talk about Cedar Rapids, like you said, a great defensive team, and not only that, just a great goaltender in Bruno Breveris. In the Phantoms offense, kind of having to learn in a way how to beat a defense like that and how to beat a goaltender like that. When you come into the finals against Fargo, who has a great defense, and then you're talking about that goaltender combination of Marinov and Castro, and how do we beat these guys, when it's something similar that you saw in the Cedar Rapids series. Then at the same time, and like you say, like with Chicago, the polar opposite.
Yeah.
Not a team that's known for great defense, not a team that's known for great goaltending.
Not that they don't have good on either end.
Though, I will give Christian Mans his flowers. He is, definitely probably one of the better Chicago goaltenders we've seen in a while.
Yeah, he is no slouch. By any means.
When you're putting together the list of goaltenders that the Phantoms faced in this postseason, and you have, Marinov, Castro, Breveris, if you're putting Christian Mans fourth on that list, that's a pretty formidable list of goaltenders to go up against.
Yeah.
Not taking anything away from Mans, but, it's just he plays on a team where the offense can make up for, a lack of defense or just not a good goaltending night.
Yeah. And that is their style. So,
But you have that, just kind of, but you have the Phantoms defense having to play against that Chicago offense, shutting them down short of, that game 2 in the Chicago series, games 1, 3, and 4, just shutting down Chicago. And then again, coming into the series with Fargo, that you're playing a team that has great goaltending, that has, great defense, that, put, and an offense that put up big numbers during the regular season.
Yeah. So, you are dialed in on both aspects.
Yeah. By the time you get to the finals, and you're talking about defensively, Fargo, the Anderson Cup champions, scored a ton of goals during the regular season, and you held them to 2 goals in the final 3 games.
Yeah. And on the other aspect, you look at the Western Conference, and I don't think Fargo saw the same level of competition, offensive and defensively, coming into it like we did. So I think, that was one of the big factors is, we had to fight to be there.
You look at Fargo, like Max Swanson, 06 coming in, put up a ton of points during the regular season, was held off the score sheets in the finals. The same with Cole Knuble.
Yeah.
Cole Knuble put up 66 points during the regular season, 0 points in the finals.
Yeah. That's just one of those things. We held them to less than 1 goal per game. It's a performance I think that stands out amongst, the Clark Cup finals. When you look at, the Force won the Anderson Cup. To do that, obviously they're the best team during the regular season, and we held them to 2 goals in 3 games.
Now, just for this last bit here, we've already gone through the defense, of course, the goaltending, and as far as the goaltending, of course, we need to mention Colin Wynn, especially down the stretch there, especially towards the end of the season, had to step, with Fowler being out, kind of being held out for precautionary reasons towards the end of the season. Youngstown still battling for that number 2 spot. Colin Wynn had to step up in some big games and probably, played some of his best games of the season in that stretch.
Yeah. And we're expecting to see him in camp and back next season. And we have very high expectations. Watching his development, I have no doubt that coming into next season, he will be at the next level. So.
But yeah, just kind of looking through the roster again. And so if anybody else is looking at the roster, this will be more numerical order. But yeah, for William Whitelaw, the knock on him going into the season, of course, what he was able to do offensively, maybe lacked defensively. We saw William Whitelaw playing some hardcore defense in the playoffs.
Yeah, especially the Phantoms get a lead, and he is back in position. Occasionally out poaching around, but you don't want to waste that offensive talent. But the defense we saw out of him was what we expect from any USHL player, and so those who thought that maybe he wouldn't be able to reach that level, obviously wrong.
And then Miles Gunty, we talked about at pretty good length on the last episode, not able to start the season with the team, coming back from an injury, from surgery and everything else, having to rehab, get back into game shape, for him to come back, and then for him to kind of show out in the finals the way that he did. Really looking forward to what he has coming up in the future. Hunter Bischoff, just, one of the, the guys we talk about, the role players, one of those third or fourth line guys. You want to, talk about the playoffs that somebody like he had.
Yeah. That last puck clear.
Yeah.
Maybe not something you see on the scoreboard, but definitely saved me from having a heart attack.
Yeah. Here we go. Get the text messages ready. Tyler Catalano. Going to see him here in a couple weeks in camp. Really looking forward to what type of season he's going to have coming up. Justin Varner, not the greatest camp in the world last summer. Maybe a little bit of a slow start to the season. He just kind of melted into his role as the season went along. And I believe when it was all said and done, I believe he had like 4 game-winning goals this season. Yeah, 4 game-winning goals this season. Somebody who just became more and more dependable as the season went on. And again, really looking for, big things from him. Again, Matthew Perkins, I haven't quite heard what his plans are going forward. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. Same with Jake Rossi, 2 guys that were just absolute spark plugs on this team. Kenta Isagai, again, just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger as the season went on. He's going to be somebody to watch next year. Brandon Svoboda, big kid, tons of personality, plays hard. He's an 05. I would expect he would be back next year. Martin Misiak, talk about a great playoff run, Martin Misiak.
Yeah. Definitely a personality on the ice too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, rounding it out, Andon Serbone, again, was traded from Chicago, had a decent season with Chicago, was traded to Omaha, kind of floundering there, was like I believe his plus minus was like a -13, comes to Youngstown. And again, just kind of completely turns his entire junior career around, turns himself into a player that everyone is talking about, that everyone wants. Really, just kind of revived what he had going on. Very excited to see what he has going on in the future. But like we said, when it's all said and done, we're going to get into in the next segment here. Again, a lot of these players we're going to see next season.
It's one of those things with junior hockey. You always, at this point, look at what players might be coming back next year. This is one of the more amazing bunches of players that I've seen possibly coming back. Only one player aging out.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Nick Williams. Nick Williams was the only overager on the roster.
So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what the final 30-man roster is going into the Fall Classic next year.
Yep. All right. So, as much fun as this season has been, and not only for the team, but for the show and what we've got to do this year, and just how our show has grown over the course of this season. And not only that, but as much as a buzz is about, as far as like what the team is going to be doing, what the team is going to be looking like next year, what this show is going to look like next year. Because we're not done yet.
No. We like to change things up every once in a while. I think, at least looking at the run sheet here, we have some possible really cool things coming up.
Yeah. All right. So now we've reached the point where we're going to turn our attention to the future. So after the break, we're going to look ahead to what this show and the Phantoms have in store going into the off season. So keep it here with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Dr. Ashdown and Dr. Carnivus have been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street to the top of the hill. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
Mill Creek Golf Course has been the Valley's leader for golfing fun since 1928. It features 36 challenging holes designed by the legendary Donald Ross and was voted a top 30 municipal facility by Golf Week in 2012. The Mill Creek Golf Shop is a certified Callaway Golf custom fitting center and it is stocked with your favorite golf apparel and accessories. Mill Creek Golf Course is now booking tee times for this year's golf season. Please call us at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
We are back with the Dump and Chase podcast brought to you by Advanced Podiatry. So with this season out of the way, right off the bat, we're looking ahead to the off season, our summer plans, the Phantom summer plans. Right away, we're going to take a couple weeks off.
I think we've earned it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have earned a couple of weeks off. Yeah. But it's going to be a quick turnaround between the end of the season and main camp.
Yeah, that's what happens when you win the cup.
That's right. So yeah, we're going to be taking the next couple weeks off for sure. The Phantoms do have main camp coming up June 12th through the 18th. Again, that is taking place at Princecape Arena at South Point in Cannonsburg, Pennsylvania. Very beautiful area. Really looking forward to going back down there again. For certain, I will be there Friday through Sunday, the 16th through the 18th. You're still working on Friday, I believe.
I should know that here soon. I don't think it's a big issue, but you know, work is work.
So right now the tentative plan is, and I don't mind this coming out a month and a half later than it has in past years, because again, the Cup, our draft recap episode with the Phantoms general managers, Jason Deskins and Ryan Kosecki, we will be recording that at main camp because in both of their words, that's the next time we'll be in the same building together.
I mean, again, everybody's earned a few weeks off.
Yeah, everybody retreated. Everybody retreated to their corners. They're sleeping it off before they come back together here in a couple weeks. So
those guys are no exception.
Yeah. So we'll have both of them together at main camp. That's when we will be recording our draft recap episode, going through that. And then of course, you know, it's hard to say just, you know, with scheduling and everything else. Hopefully we get, you know, what, you know, the feedback we get as far as the people we get to interview, you know, at these things. But, you know, definitely like Andrew Golden and Ryan Ward, hopefully we'll be getting, even if they can sit down for just a few minutes, we'll be working on that, of course.
Usual suspects.
The usual suspects. Then, of course, new and old. And again, it might have been hinted to me there might be a surprise or two at main camp. So we're going to see how that plays out there. So yeah, pretty much the name of the game of those 3 days is just get as much content as we can that can hold us over for a while. Because once main camp's over, the news really dries up until about the end of August.
Yeah, that's unfortunately one of the aspects of this league that we've talked about ad nauseum is at certain points you don't get a lot of information, and we will be milking whatever content we have at that point.
Of course, we talked about before, finally, after all these years getting to meet Pete Kropsky face-to-face, the voice of the NTDP, which will be interesting to talk to him with the Phantoms trading up in the Phase 2 draft, trading with Madison to get the first overall pick in Phase 2, picking Charlie Serrato, recently of the NTDP U17s and 18s, played for both this past season. And then in the later rounds, picking up Will Vogt. So I think he'll be somebody really good to talk to as far as those players. And of course, just his history with the game. And I really think once we get that one going, that's going to be a really, really good episode. I'm really looking forward to when we get that one put together. And then, of course, any other like interviews or anything else we do, just kind of any other surprises will just be as they present themselves during the off-season. More often than not in the off-season, things just kind of fall in our laps more than going out hunting for them. So we don't know what's happening until something, like I said, just kind of falls in our lap.
When we say surprise, they're usually surprises to us.
And then fingers crossed I usually want to say it's usually about July when the season schedule will come out.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it early, maybe like late June, early July. We've seen it July. We've seen it as late as August. So whenever next season's schedule comes out, we'll definitely have an episode there looking at that. And then, of course, once you go from August into September, we're talking training camp and preseason. We'll have coverage episodes as far as all that is concerned. And then, of course, season 6 of the Dump and Chase podcast will be starting at the end of September with the Fall Classic, which I'm going to assume, again, will be back in Cranberry. I don't think they were really looking for other locations at this point. That partnership has worked out very well for the league. Maybe not the teams that have to travel all the way to it. Ask Omaha.
Yeah. Oh boy. Maybe they'll work on warp technology this year.
as opposed to just leaving on a jet plane like last year.
Yeah, there's no bylaws against teleportation, is there?
And then because they got fined. I think the league fined them like $20,000. And then by the time the draft rolled around, found out they lost a couple of draft picks too.
Yeah, I wonder if anybody was looking forward to taking those.
Wouldn't know who.
No.
But yeah, it's one of those things. It's the dog day. If you're a hockey fan, if you're looking forward to next season, it's just July and August are just kind of those dog days where if you're someone waiting for hockey, those 2 months will feel like they take forever. But if you're in school or a teacher or anybody else like that,
a baseball fan,
those months go pretty quick for you. But when you're a hockey fan, those are kind of the dog days. So we're just kind of scraping for whoever will talk to us or whatever we can get to just put something out there so everybody doesn't forget about us.
We'll let you know.
But yeah, so like I said, we have main camp coming up. I will say, as far as main camp is concerned, if you've never come down to one, especially usually Saturday evening, and then again on Sunday morning, they do the All-Star games, the scrimmages there at the end of camp. Those are a lot of fun to watch. Usually the Saturday night game is the one the team will promote, trying to get people to come down for it. Now, I'm going to venture a guess because like last season, they tried to do the bus, getting people to come down to, catch the bus in Boardman and then come down to see the All-Star game on Saturday night and then catch the bus back. They struggled a little bit getting enough seats filled in order to do it. I would almost think if they tried again this year, that may not be a problem.
Yeah, you might be able to get a little bit more interest.
That's I think this offseason they might, if they try it again, they might have a little better luck filling that bus.
You might want to get on the bus, people, because I have a feeling seating might be at a premium for that. I think there's going to be some scouts in attendance. I think this will be one of those things that you see a lot of interesting people showing up for.
Yeah, if you've never been there for one, the arena is beautiful.
Yeah, Inkscape is a great arena. And it's a interesting area.
They have right inside the arena. They have the the burger bar and the restaurant deal. In the one section, they have the coffee shop there in the main lobby, which you love.
Yeah.
Justin drops a lot of coin at that coffee shop during the weekend. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, most arenas, ask the people at UPMC. Yeah, I'll drop a lot of money on some coffee. I think Inkscape, I just saw some video footage on social media. They put in a second sheet of ice.
Yeah, there's a whole nother section of that building that I kind of didn't know about, but it turns out they're putting a whole nother ice rink in there.
Yeah. I think they used to have like soccer and maybe like roller hockey in there. Somebody told me that they'd seen it set up for conference space, which is amazing because we set up in the conference room, pretty spacious.
Yeah.
So anyway, and a shout out to all the staff there who have always been really great. So
yeah, we we were given the conference room last year, which was turned into overall the media room, which we'll be doing the same thing again this year. So if you come down to camp, you catch me or Justin, we'd be more than happy to give you a tour of the whole recording set. We're going to have the entire setup there.
Yeah.
The entire, you wouldn't think it, but there's actually way more to it than you realize, especially with the full traveling show we do here with the podcast. We'll have the full setup there. If you'd like to come see it, we'd be more than happy to show you. But yeah, it's a lot of fun down there. Not only seeing the games, the players, in between games will be out kind of walking around, getting food themselves, socializing and everything else. You get to chat with them. If you get the chance to make it down, I highly recommend it. It's something, it's really, something that I've looked forward to, for the past few summers, and really looking forward to it this year.
Especially this year. I mean, I'm really excited to see the buzz in the place.
Yeah. Well, Justin, at this point, I think we've run out of things to talk about.
At least that people will listen to.
Yeah. I am noticing here my voice is starting to go. This is the most we have ever talked on an episode. So this may be a good time to finally call it quits. So we're going to take one final break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up this episode and wrap up season 5. So stick around one more time with the Dump and Chase podcast on Western Reserve Radio.
Dr. Ashdown and Dr. Carnivus have been making happy feet in the Mahoning Valley for 35 years. Our offices are located in Cortland, Champion, Austintown, Columbiana, and Howland. Our Howland office has relocated to 8601 East Market Street to the top of the hill. Advanced Podiatry offers sports medicine and treatment plans for all ages. You can also request an appointment online by visiting our website at advancedpodiatry.com. Advanced Podiatry, where surgery is always a last resort.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
And welcome back, and that will do it for this episode, and that will do it for season 5 of the Dump and Chase podcast. So right away, we want to thank the official sponsor of the Dump and Chase podcast. Again, that is Advanced Podiatry. Be sure to check out advancedpodiatry.com. So before we get through all the final stuff, of course, we have our thank yous we want to give first and foremost to the front office of the Youngstown Phantoms, from Andrew to Kelsey to Maddie to Anna. Those guys have been incredible with us, not only this season, but every season. Again, just kind of allowing us to do the things that we're able to do, even being an unofficial show. These guys have always been so generous and so candid with us, and it's something we appreciate. And then, of course, Coach Ward, Coach Godkin, Coach Colin Toys, Coach Dennis, Smitty, who by the numbers of one of the
best episode.
We have one of the best episodes. It's in the top 3. And it's shot up there pretty quick of episodes we've ever done. And then, of course, the players, a lot of the times when we talk to these guys, it's right after a game. They've gone out, played their butts out, and they're, willing to hang back, take a few minutes, to talk to us so we can put them on the show. A lot of appreciation to them. Of course, our 222 crew. I'll tell you what, probably nobody more than Kevin Carney was happiest about that cup win. We wish he could have been there to celebrate it with us, but he was there.
No doubt. I think us winning the cup and the timing was just kind of fate.
Yeah, he was in that arena and he had the best seat in the house for that arena. I can guarantee that. So happy that the team could not only win the cup, but, get it for the Carney family. Yeah. So again, like, to our 222 crew, Bob and Sherry, of course, Bridget, Kevin and Barb. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, all of you listening. If none of you listened, it would basically be back when we first started, but we kept trudging through anyways. But yeah, we so many new people have come on board this season. So many more listeners. Just the incredible feedback we get through the year from all of you. Your continued support. I mean, at the end of the day, we're doing what we do because you listen. Because if you weren't listening, we'd be talking to each other, and there'd be no point to any of this. So, I mean, you're the reason we keep doing this. The way somebody put it to me, they loved how we exposed the team to the fans.
I think that's always been kind of the goal, the good and the bad. This year, there's just been so much good that, it's so great to finish the season this way.
And that's something that you and I are both interested in. It's not just what you see, but just kind of the nuts and bolts behind it.
Yeah, the way it's,
what goes into it to put out there, the end result is what we see on the ice, all these people coming together, and that's something that's always interested you and me, is just kind of the behind the scenes of it. What does it take to get to that final product?
The professionalism, everything that goes on behind the scenes that you just don't see this kind of environment in any other sport other than junior hockey.
And even at the same time, you don't see it in a lot of the other junior hockey teams.
Yeah.
Podcasts can come and podcasts could go, but it's the Phantoms have been nothing but willing to kind of pull back the curtain and let everyone see the behind the scenes stuff and what it takes, to not only put a team on the ice, but this season to put a championship team on the ice.
And just what it took to put all those pieces together. A lot of people did a lot of work to make this happen. And, as fans, we appreciate it. As podcasters, we really thank them for letting us have the access.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, we want to thank Western Reserve Radio, Jim Craven, Dave Ferris, who have been, not only allowed us onto their network, have been so supportive of us, giving us opportunities we never thought we would have with this show. Certainly thankful for them. Typically, when we're in full steam ahead, you can hear the show every Wednesday on Western Reserve Radio at 5 p.m. Not sure how that's going to work through the summer, but we're going to try to keep to that. But yeah, you can hear us again on Western Reserve Radio on westernreserveradio.com. The Live 365 or TuneIn apps, and the Western Reserve Facebook and Twitter pages, as well as the Youngstown Phantoms Facebook page. You can also catch this show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find us on social media. Be sure to do that and to follow us there. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, and then, of course, on Facebook, now with the official Facebook page of the Dump and Chase podcast, as well as our website at dumpandchasepod.com. All of this information can be found there. So Justin, one more time for season 5, any words of wisdom as we come into the off season here and start going for the March for 2 in a row?
The Phantoms are the 2023 Clark Cup champions. I can't think of anything other to say than that.
So for this marathon episode, and quite honestly, I hope we get to do it again this time next year. So one more time for Justin Irwin, I'm Sam Olmstead. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in, and we will be back and talking with you soon. Bye now.
We thank you for joining us for this special presentation of Western Reserve Radio. And we now return to our regularly scheduled programming.